Hi there, and welcome to the Animation Industry Podcast. My name is Terry, and I am really tall. If you've ever wanted to have your own show and you're not sure where to start, this is a really interesting chat to listen to. And that is because this episode features the creator of Adult Swim's Lazor Wulf, Henry Bonsu, who details his journey of creating Lazor Wulf as a webcomic on Tumblr back in 2013, to becoming jobless, then moving across the country to crash at his friend's place and make a pitch to a producer he made a random connection with. Now fast forward to 2019 and Adult Swim premieres the first full season of Lazor Wulf, and now it's in its second season, premiering this week on Sunday, December 6th. So make sure to check it out on Adult Swim. And now a better time to talk with Henry about how he pitched his show successfully, why it got picked up, and absolutely everything that's gone into making these two seasons possible. So let's jump into the chat. Hey Henry, thanks for coming on the podcast chat. What's going on in your life right now?
Thanks for having me. What's going on is having a little break from finishing up season 2 of Lazor Wulf, and getting people to watch while I'm just drawing these little comics on my Cintiq.
Fair enough. Congratulations also on getting the first season made, and now the second season, which I have to put in a little plug, comes out December 6th on Adult Swim.
Thank you. It's, thanks to the team of awesome artists and writers too. It's been fun.
You have a really interesting story because it started off as like this webcomic on Tumblr years ago, and then you made like a pilot, and then Adult Swim. Like, tell me the whole process of where this came from and how you pitched it, and now it's on TV.
I would say it's like it started off as it was a joke amongst friends, not like this idea of this character that's a wolf with a laser on its back, and at the time it was called Lazor Wulf and Battle Ham. It was like Lazor Wulf and his best friend Battle Ham, which was a piece of ham he carried on the top of his head. And it was funny enough for me to want to go draw it afterwards. We were talking about it. And usually sometimes for me, it's like you think something's funny and you want to draw it. But then after you're done joking about it with friends, you're like, I don't want to draw this. It's not. Just worked as the joke. But with Lazor Wulf, I felt like drawing it. And I drew a couple 3 one-panel strips, and and I guess at that time too, I'm I'm on Tumblr and hoping that folks follow and like the work, and hopefully with that maybe some people ask for freelance, folks, and a lot more people than I was used to. It's probably 60 or 100 people or whatever, but a lot more than I was used to liked it, so I made a couple more. And the joke of it all was that the continuity of the comic itself was weird. You'd write a comic to be continued but not continue the story. You start with something else, or the next strip you change the style of these characters, in a weird way. You're really only telling the story just through the medium, in a sense that you're there's no real story, but more so in this strip of Lazor Wulf, the style is different. And they didn't continue the story from here, but then 5 strips later, we might continue the story from there. Just having fun with the overall sandbox of it all. That's what.
So you drew this Lazor Wulf, you got 60 to 100 new people liking it, and then you kept going for years? It
wasn't for years. I think it picked up a bit of a following, but at the same time too, it was like I said, it was I didn't really have a job per se where I was just financially comfortable to just draw Lazor Wulf. At the same time, I was still, just drawing other things, and I wasn't thinking of Lazor Wulf in a way that it was going to be something that blew up and made became a cartoon. It was always if it's a cartoon that's cool, that'd be awesome. I have an idea for it. It would sort of function the same way the comic is, which is sort of using the medium it's in to its fullest capabilities, where it's it's just this acknowledgement. Lazor Wulf the comic was an acknowledgement that this is a comic, where it's with Lazor Wulf the cartoon, it's there's an acknowledgement that this is a cartoon, and we play with that, and it gives us a lot of freedom in how we shape and tell these stories and adventures or misadventures. But
so then tell me how you went from you said you weren't in a place to draw it full time, but now it's a show. Hey, what's up? So
Yeah.
how did you take it from this little comic that you made to actually, selling it to Adult Swim and now working, assuming part-time or full-time on it now? And you just watched the second season. So like, there's a lot of people out there who are doing their own thing in a comic right now, trying to make that happen. What did you do to make that happen?
I mean, it's funny because I was drawing other things then, like I was drawing a lot of art on the Tumblr beyond Lazor Wulf. So funny enough, like what the art that really got me noticed by someone who could by I would say Daniel Weinfeld, who was the developer of the pilot in season 1 of Lazor Wulf, was like, something else he was working on, Eric Andre. I had drawn like some Eric Andre related fan art on my Tumblr because I think it was the time where it first came out. And I was like, this show's crazy. So I just drew something and he saw it. Then he contacted me, sent me an email. And through that email, I contacted him back because, I'm like, this is, your first instinct is like, this is a lie, but I'm just going to respond. And it became like, if you're ever in LA, let's meet up and talk cartoons. And so I went to LA, I was like,
So you weren't like, maybe if I go to LA one day, like you literally, I don't know.
I didn't feel like I had a
got
choice.
A ticket.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. Like, I'm from the East Coast. Like, I was living around North Philly at the time, but then I moved to San Jose because I had friends there that said like, well, we can get you a job game testing at Namco, and they'll put some money in your pocket and you could crash with us. So I'm living in San Jose and like game testing. But at night, I'm drawing and posting artwork on my Tumblr. Slowly, like folks are like obviously coming towards the Tumblr and liking the artwork. But yeah, like the game testing job ended and, I'm like, oh, I might have to move back to Philly or like back home. But you get an email from a producer who's like, hey, if you're ever in LA, let's meet up and talk cartoons. And you're like, I could go home, or like go to LA and give this a shot. Like, luckily I had a friend in LA, like my friend Godfrey, who was living here at the time. And I was like, I got this email. I want to follow up on it because it could lead to me actually drawing for a living, like full time. And I want to follow up on it. And any cool friend, like the coolest friend, one of the coolest people ever was like, yeah, come down. A week later, I like hit up Daniel and like, can I meet and talk to you? Like, can I get to follow up on your email? I'm here. And he was like a man of his word. It wasn't a BS email. He was like, yeah, let's meet up and chat. So through that, like, he hooks me up with his brother's company, animation, ADHD, which was partnered up with FX at the time, Fox ADHD and FX. And I worked there and I got to direct and animate one short for them, which was like a Tyler the Creator 5 Things You Don't Know About Me. But most of my time was spent making GIFs for their GIF news section. And through that channel, I met so much of the artists that I currently work with on Lazor Wulf. Nice. Like my art director, Jeremy Sangley, is someone I worked with for 3 to 4 years at Fox ADHD. The board director, Jared Weiss, was someone I worked with at Fox ADHD, and the original animation director for the pilot, and was Chris Cornwall. Met him at ADHD, and like a lot of the board artists are people I met there too. So it's like this journey led to me like accruing and meeting people that I, ended up working with. But working at ADHD for 3 years, I still was in contact with Daniel, and I eventually, the whole time I was meaning to pitch something, but I just didn't want to go up to him with any idea so that he didn't take, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I want to make sure he knows like I'm coming with an idea I'm serious about that I have followed through on, so that like it's not a thing where like if this pitch fails or whatever, he never wants to like take the work I present to him seriously. So I'd come initially with like this comic strip, which another comic, but it was like a more one panel splash page comic I was doing at the time. And that wasn't really fully fleshed out. But at the same time, I had Lazor Wulf, which I was trying to turn into my own little short because I was like, I still want to utilize this character, but I showed him that little bit of like 1 minute, 30-second storyboards. And like I had the whole backstory and everything laid out in my head. And he was like, that, that's the idea. Like a week later, we went to Adult Swim and Walter Newman and Cam Tang, and then I pitched it to them, and they dug it. I mean, they dug it, and then came the pilot. Like immediately was like, I think maybe a week or two later, like they were like, they wanted to move forward with the pilot. So I think at that time too, working at ADHD for like 3 years and just focused on my art too. During the meantime, I was able to sort of have an understanding of what I was looking to do. Not fully, obviously like the pilot wasn't like perfect in any way, but like in a sense, there was obviously enough in it for Adult Swim to say like, we want to move forward with this.
Yeah. What do you have an idea of what that, that secret sauce that really sold it was? Like, what was that one thing? Because Adult Swim gets pitched like every day by
Yeah.
dozens of people, right? But it sounds like they move pretty fast on
Yeah.
Lazor Wulf.
I would think, I mean, I can't say I officially know, but I would think a major part is the idea of like, do you want to see more adventures of this? Like, there's got to be obviously something they want to see more of, where it's like an explanation of the world, an explanation of the characters and their motivations. Like, obviously, sometimes we come with these ideas that like, I think I'm one of those like corny people that thinks every idea is good and every idea is worth it. I genuinely just like, I'm just that way. I'm like, no, we can make this work. You know what I mean? Like there's a way to make this work. It's just about tweaking designs and like moving this here, moving that there. But overall, like, let's not throw this out. So like with Lazor Wulf, it was just like, you have this wolf with a laser on his back that lives in the town of Strongburg, and his brother and sister. He has a brother and sister, and a father that hates them, and God, who for some reason hates him with all his being. We live in this town of Strongburg where, like, character like Fraser Crane can exist, but like as a Black person, and like like all these weird elements that like I feel like you want folks that have questions that, you eventually might answer or might not answer, but they'll stick around for. And for me, I like building worlds, building worlds that like feel new and give everyone an equal opportunity to jump into.
Nice. I was gonna, because you're already kind of talking about it. Can you give like a brief overview of what the show is about, and maybe second season too, just for people who haven't heard or seen it yet?
Oh yeah. I think Lazor Wulf is a show about. I would say it's more of an ensemble show about the inhabitants of Strongburg, and those inhabitants of Strongburg are Lazor Wulf, wolf with a laser on his back; Cannon Wulf, his brother, which is a wolf with a cannon on his back; Lazor Wulf, a business-minded, business-oriented wolf with a flame on her back; King Yeti, magical Yeti who's only into bikes; Stupid Horse, a kind-hearted, well-meaning but stupid horse, and the owner of the home that they currently live in, and God, who I guess in a sense maybe created all of this, and even though he's in a perpetual state of annoyance with it, did he create, you know what I mean? Did he create all of this for himself? And through all that, like, you have the randomness and the misadventures and like discoveries of like what goes on with these characters and in Strongburg. And it can take shape in any way that works for that story. So if it's in documentary format or if it's in talk show format, like using the medium of animation to give us the freedom reminding ourselves like we can do whatever we want, like, and reminding ourselves that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I also really, maybe you can touch on the style of the show too, because it's pretty unique in how it plays with space and like how characters, move around and interact with each other, and kind of like buildings existing only when they need to, and everything else is just kind of blank. Because a normal show has like background layout design that you use
Yeah,
multiple shots and stuff.
yeah.
So what are you at the forefront of the design? Because I checked out your original comic and it looks pretty, doesn't look very much the same, I guess, but it seems like
Oh,
your art style has evolved over time. So are you also like directing all of that too? And where does that
I
come
work I work primarily with see it would, our art director is Henry Sangley, and he's very much like he'll take all my work and pretty much make sure like we talk about a lot this idea of like, well, you're doing every season, it's more so like you're doing this, so like I want to push this here. But for me it's like I really love minimalism a lot, and also like negative space. Like I don't, funny enough, I don't think it's negative. Like, I like the idea of like more so like the still, when you take a still of this image, how does it look to someone who hasn't really seen the show? Like it's, you know, over 100, like over 100 years of animation, like it's kind of hard to like discover new ways to present something, but that's the joy that comes with like, like let's I think in our minds it's like my mind especially is like wanting to break something, and like and present it as like, I guess yeah, present it. I don't want to even say present it as something new, but like present it. But overall, like the way we play with space and the way we play with walking and like, talking and how the characters interact, it's more so like I grew up on video games, especially 2D side scrollers. Like, so it's like a lot of my childhood, like, I really love Streets of Rage. I really love, like, characters who could just, like, their legs are moving, but their upper bodies might be static. But, like, it's more so, like, at this aspect, it's more about the design. Like, that jump between design and animation is really kind of important to me. And Jeremy is someone that I feel like completely understands that and like puts it together. I want the characters to feel like they can interact with the background, because I remember watching Looney Tunes and being aware that like they're gonna grab that thing from the background or they're gonna open this door. Whereas Lazor Wulf, I want it to feel like you can open any door or pick up anything that's around, and like these characters look like they built the world they're in. That was really important to me in season one, like the aspect of these characters built the world we're in. Like layout and all those things too, I would say are important. And our board director Jared Weiss is also very influential on that, like understanding like that, like this is what, sometimes I love the symmetry, and like whereas like I think with the symmetry in season one was more about like, this couch is even out on all sides and it's in the middle, of the screen, and like, like the evenness of everything. But now I think with season two, and hopefully more so in the future, is exploring symmetry in a different way, but also like the objects that video game wise, like the objects that you see in the screen are the objects you need, so that's why certain things might be really big. Like, like a screw or a bolt is way larger in Lazor Wulf world than obviously a tiny bolt, because it's just what we need. We need one bolt instead of 50. One bolt could get across like 50 bolts, like one giant plate of eggs and bacon, the side's like 75.
Sounds like you're kind of exploring both, storytelling, animation, and then what you can push with the design. Is it hard to pursue that when you're, you have your direction and ideas, and you work with your team? And is it hard to pursue that when creating the show and working with budgets and multiple people and stuff?
Yeah, it's hard, but that's like, it's hard in the sense that like I want it to be like this, like it's better than game testing for me. You know what I mean? Like it's like my job, it's like I get to figure this out. But for me too, it's like one thing I love a lot is the like old Japanese live action TV shows of the 70s and 80s where you're like, this is clearly a low budget. You know, like I was actually watching a documentary on like the Japanese Spider-Man, and they were talking about how like, you know, Japan, we're not given a big budget like, you know, America is to make this. So we have to come up with stylish ways to make this work. Even in like a anime, you know, where you have like a freeze frame and like they're frozen and stoic, but then the speed lines, it's like that obviously came from not having a budget to animate everyone, but like do that, like they develop a style that like I feel like is utilized now. And some people don't realize it came from like not having the budget to animate the whole crowd going crazy. But it's funny because I'd rather animate, for me in my brain, it's like I'd rather find the right still pose, the funny still pose, the weird still pose, and like keep it that way because I feel like the benefit of being 11 minutes is that we might like, it's that like we have like too much time and not enough time, you know, that balance, like you're like, and like finding ways to make that work. And all those techniques like UPA was something that like, you know, came up in like a lot, like I would say a lot to people, how much I love UPA animation and UPA backgrounds, the abstract nature of their backgrounds, but like they didn't need much to flesh out a lot, you know, like you can have a blank white screen and like Lazor Wulf is at the bottom of the screen and there's a window up here and someone pokes it, you know, that you obviously know that's a building, you know, like, you know, like even though you're looking at this blank white space, like clearly that's a building. Like I'm gonna have to accept that that's a building. You don't have to, but you
Versus like just a window floating in space.
yeah. But it's also like with Lazor Wulf, we do have the freedom for Lazor Wulf to be like, isn't it weird? Like your house is a window floating in space. Like, and that's kind of the fun nature where I say like it's really just playing with medium and like having respect for it all.
So how does it, you know, you kind of went through your journey where you were crashing at your friend's house, hoping to get a chat with this producer to now, you know, just season 2 is coming out next week, basically. Like, how does it feel, like ups and downs? Like, are you living the dream? Are you still pursuing something? Like, tell me how it feels.
I think it feels cool. It feels like, you know, it's a huge relief, and I get to work with a lot of my friends, like, and for these past couple seasons, like it's been cool to work with, but getting to understand people like you work with and see how their brains work and see how they interpret something you thought of with old like friends on a balcony, you know, and just joking around, but like I'm having fun with it, you know, I'm having fun with it, and I think that's my main thing a lot, you know. After each season I'm like, I want to remind myself like this is only 11 minutes and have fun with it, and like I'm not obligated to I'm not obligated to anything but just telling the 11 minutes of Lazor Wulf in a sense, you know, like I can't promise you like there's an epic ending, or maybe there is. It all kind of depends on your point of view. So working on a show like that is like, wow, in a weird way, I'm getting to make the thing that I wanted to make, and that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, because I know a lot of folks are working to that, and like I live in a place where like there's talented artists. There's talented artists everywhere. Like there's talented artists everywhere. Like everyone is amazing at what they do, like without question. Like not someone that's like, I made it because I'm, no, like everyone, it's just people who are really freaking good, you know? And so very, very appreciative of being able to make this.
I love that attitude. For yourself, do you have something that you are pursuing at the end of the day? Like, you know, you started off as kind of comics, now you're in animation, like career
Yeah,
wise, where do you want to go?
I think I mean, right now, like I'm more of like a moment guy, and like right now the focus is like I'd like to remind myself like I don't ever want to look back at Lazor Wulf and be like, man, I wish I appreciated that more. So like for me, it's like right now it's Lazor Wulf and like taking it all in and making like, yeah, you hope there's a season 3. And so then when that comes, like obviously put your all into that. But I would say in between that, like, yeah, I'm making I spent the quarantine, I think in the middle of the quarantine, like I just started like this like these comics on my own called like baloney. Like where it's just like these like full page like splash page, but I would say minimalist but weird like silent stories in a way, which kind of have many elements and many sort of ideas of Lazor Wulf, I would say, that you can't really fully explain with 11 minutes, like clearly folks know I love advertising, because I'll show an ad or something in Lazor Wulf. I love like, billboards and signs and all that. And I love weird looking loose characters. So it's like, what can I explore more of that in and like scratch an itch that like I have right now? And it's just like right now it's like on my Cintiq next to me, it's like, a comic, that I'm working on that I'll probably just drop on Gumroad or a Patreon. Folks either download it
So
for free or
Baloney
pay it out.
isn't published online?
I have 2 of them on Gumroad.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like Gumroad. The name of the Gumroad / Nah, NANAH. But yeah, so it's like 2 of them are just on there, and they're more so like just weird, funny. Like I don't think they're not really stories, more so like stories about moments without dialogue. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're all on there, and I usually feel like I try to update, add a new one every couple weeks or a month.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
As we're, I guess, wrapping up this chat because we're running out of time, is there any behind the scenes you want to share of, how it's getting made, the team, your process or anything like that?
well, the process is like, meet with the writers. The writing team is this season we added Ellington Wells. She's a comedian and one of our new writers. Just Sarah Ballardini, Shudnick Maynard, and Quinta Brunson and Carl Jones and me. And we wrote, this season of Lazor Wulf. And then a lot of the writing process in Lazor Wulf is us like sitting, just talking and watching YouTube, pulling up YouTube videos on a computer and like, you seen this weird thing? What about this weird thing? Do you remember this thing? And sort of breaking down through that, we like, just breaking down like, I think we write down a whole bunch of jokes first. You know what I mean? Like we write down a lot of jokes, just things we find funny and like funny concepts more than anything. And then we sort of break into story, break into how do we, like how do we craft? Because Lazor Wulf isn't really necessarily like like the story to me of Lazor Wulf is all of it. You know what I mean? Like in the sense of like, there's no spoiler to me. You know what I mean? Like the crazy stuff kind of just starts off, and to me, it's kind of a ride. Like the ride starts at intro and it ends at 10 minutes and 59 seconds in. Hope you enjoyed this one, sort of thing. So like I think we all have that in our minds, and so we write. That's how we craft the season. This season, I was able to have the art director and the board director in the writing room to sort of help, like, the writers understand where visually we might be heading to. But then even after that, like after it's done being written, like I have to give the board director and the board team their opportunity to visually write. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're going to come to me and say, this doesn't make sense visually. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. So like what makes sense? Like instead of 52 plates, like what if we draw like, a giant bowl of soup, like, like, or like, anything, because this visual element here in the writing doesn't really matter to the overall story. So we can do something cool with this. Does he have to walk here, or can we just have a joke in here and he moonwalks to the location? You know, those types of things. And then after that process, you know, you have the designer, Jeremy Sangley, and his team, where it's like, you know, a lot of it isn't hindered necessarily on the writing. It's like, I want to give each team their freedom to be an artist and add their element to it and add something that's a part of them. Lazor Wulf's a collaboration, you know, it's like really about meeting halfway, because we're all like gonna end up creating something hopefully weird and different and fun. So I feel better when it feels collaborative and folks feel like they got their jokes off.
Nice. I like how, well, you're clearly giving a really good sense that it is very collaborative, and that's really cool to hear. Is there anything else as we're kind of wrapping up in the final moments that you wanted to share for maybe somebody listening to your journey or who follows you and they want to, I don't know, hear your advice?
I mean, I think it's like, for me, like the only thing that I can say like was important to the journey here was like just consistently drawing. You know, like I think throughout all the years, you know, like I would see artists who had like their style laid down, you know, and obviously it was always going to be that style. For me, it was like one thing I had to learn about myself. It's like, it's not necessarily a style that I might have visually, like it's just more so a thematic style. Like, you know, styles take many shapes, where it's like you might have your drawing style might be the look of it, or your drawing style might be the themes or the subject matter you like to draw. But overall, the most important thing, as corny as it might sound, is like drawing. Like, you know what I mean? Like you draw and like make sure the work is there for folks to see. Cause like someone's looking.
Yeah.
And with the internet, it's like so easy to just like slip out of the consciousness if you stop for a bit, because there's so many people that are. So if you're consistent, like I drew every day, I felt like I made sure I posted at least something, one thing for like 6 years. I felt like, you know, where it was like, I felt like I was, even if it's a sketch or a little silly comic, like.
So you don't care if it's like this perfect, finely polished thing. You're just like,
I feel weirder if it's, I feel weirder these days when it's perfect and polished. You know what I mean? Like I do like, you know, I do like the scratches and like the squiggly lines and the broken line and like, you know, like the weird, like I like, even if you listen to the show, like someone will make a slip up in a line and we might keep it in because that's the fun part. Like it makes it feel attainable to someone like me. And like, especially if I was a kid watching that, like, oh, I can do this. I can do this too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not all, like, humans made this. Yeah. Humans made this, and these characters also now in this world feels real because they just stumbled over their dialogue and they interrupted each other while they were talking. Like,
I really like that sentiment. It even parallels something you said earlier, where you want the characters in your show to you want it to feel like they made the world. Yeah. And you know, you want people to watch your show to know that humans made it, because that's also a big reason why I started this podcast, because like, you know, the animation world seems so unattainable at certain levels. Like if you want to make a show or, you know, get into it. So I think that's really cool that you brought that up.
Oh, thank you. No, I mean, it's hard. I still don't necessarily feel like I haven't made it into the animation world, but I'm like, maybe you just don't ever feel like it. Like, but I'm also cool not feeling like it. I'd like to feel like I kind of always have to work at my craft. I still want to like drawing.
Yeah, you don't want to hate it.
yeah, I don't want to hate it. I really don't.
Well, Henry, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a real pleasure to hear your journey and everything about Lazor Wulf. And I'm really excited for season 2, which comes out on December 6th.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Awesome. And if you want to check out Henry's work or get in touch with him, you can follow his Twitter and Instagram or Tumblr, which go by Henry the Worst, or check out Baloney, his new comic on Gumroad/Man. I'll include all this in the description of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. That's all from me. Goodbye.